All right. Hello, everybody. Let me make sure we're live on Rumble. I can give me just a second here. There's a little bit of lag. Not sure why. There we go. All right. Welcome. Normally we do this on Fridays. We moved it to Sunday last week, trying to find a good home for the show. There's a lot of shows that are on Friday night um, that kind of have the same sort of viewers that I have. And there's not a lot of viewers on there's not a lot to watch on Sundays. And so we moved it to Sunday to see. I can't get my camera right. We moved it to Sunday to see. I hate having a ton of headspace. Moved it to Sunday to see if um, we picked up any extra views. I was going to actually look at that um, because there's not a lot to watch on Rumble on the weekends because most everybody that podcasts does so during the week and then they take the weekends off. So and also, I think it helps Rumble if some of us do it on the weekend. Yeah, it looks like we had 1,500 so far. I think our last live stream on a Friday night has got 2,180. So we'll see. It's only been a few days. I'm guessing it'll be about the same. So we may just keep it at Sundays. But this week, hi Kay. Um, this week we're going to be camping. We leave camp for camping Friday afternoon, and we'll be back on Tuesday. So just some programming notes. Today was the last book club for The Giver. We finished it up. Great book. Next Wednesday, we will not have a book club. I will pick a book, and then I never know which way my hair is. I have two screens up. One's facing the right way, and one's not. Um, so I will figure out what book we're going to read. We will take next Wednesday off. And so we won't have a book club next Wednesday, and we'll return the Wednesday after, I think. Unless that's the Wednesday that I'm filming. I'll keep you guys posted. We've got the documentary film coming up. Hey, Kate. Um, we've got the documentary film coming up that I'm filming with Anthony Cheen. So if you follow me because you know about my near death experience, Anthony Cheen, I did a documentary film with him last September or August, I think, and it did really well. And it was just my story. Well, he's doing another one, and he's got Pim Van Lommel, uh, Dr. PMH Atwater, and who is the other person? Very well known. Moody. Um, and so those three experts are in the film, and then it's my story, and then two other near death experiencers. So that'll be really cool. I don't know the other two experiencers, I don't know their story. If you follow me, you know I don't watch other people's near death experiences because it's too easy to get it melted into yours if you're not careful. Because there's always little things that'll come up that I'm remembering about my near death experience. So I try to keep it really pure by not listening to anyone else's. And yes, listening to someone else's might trigger some memories for me that I don't have right now, but I would just prefer they come up naturally, and I don't ever want to get in a situation. It can happen easier than you think. And so just for plagiarism, for my own ethics, I just don't listen to other people's stories. Now people will write me and they'll share a story that they've had an experience like it. That's a little different. Um, but I don't just like watch videos and things of other people's stories. Kate says, best video. We love your story. Oh, you do like that one. Awesome. I'm so glad. Well, that's cool. So I'm meeting Anthony's in France, so he can't come and film it, or he's not coming to film it because he couldn't get away. So he contracted with a filmmaker here. And we're going to be filming that at a place called, hold on, I'll tell you. A place called, hold on, I have to wind back in here, she and I. So my friend Pamela Honchel, who is a stylist, and she has a company called Monarch Productions. Um, she is helping coordinate this, and she's going to style me for the show. And she styled me for things before, for something before. Um, it's not Kentucky Castle. It is, I can't think of the name of it. Something Farm, Queens Lake Farm. I think that's in Georgetown, maybe. Beautiful, beautiful place. So we're going to be filming there, and it'll be really nice because we'll be able to shoot some B-roll. If you don't know what B-roll is like, this is A-roll. And so if I brought in an image of me walking or an image of, I was telling the story of my near-death experience, and an image came on the screen of me laying on a stretcher dead, that would be B-roll. So we'll get to, bye, Kate. We'll get to be able to have some B-roll on it, which will be fun. It always makes a movie more interesting to watch rather than just sitting and watching somebody talk. So that's coming up. I think August 9th is when we film that. So I'll have to look and see what we've got going between now and then. So there won't be a live stream on Sunday because we'll be camping, and there won't be one next Wednesday, and I'm not sure whether we'll be back Friday or Sunday. I'll keep you posted. It's the wrong way. The bangs drive me crazy. I should just pin them back out of my face. All right, so I don't have a ton of news for you because we did a show on Sunday, but I did want to talk about it if you guys are following the Hunter Biden thing. So Hunter Biden had it all set up to go to court today and have this plea deal where they were going to not put him in jail or anything. They were going to kind of defer the gun charge. And this wasn't on everything he did. This was just the gun charge, and I can't remember what the one other thing was. But anyway, I think tax evasion or something like that. Anyway, they were supposed to have court this morning. Everybody was agreed they were going to accept this plea, and as long as he stayed away from drugs and didn't get any trouble, he was going to be okay. Well, some bonehead in his legal team, so the court clerk gets a call supposedly from the prosecution saying, so a couple different groups had sent over amicus briefs to inform the judge, hey, there are a bunch of other charges where there's an open investigation. You know, you might not want to do this plea deal because they don't want to have a plea deal on something that is a part of a bunch of other things, I think is basically what it is. So they had sent all of this amicus brief over, 2 different places. I don't know who they were. Somebody in Congress, some committee in Congress, and I can't remember who the other one was. Well, they sent these amicus briefs over. Well, of course, the defense counsel found out that those had been sent over and decided that somebody would call the court and pretend to be whatever that committee was, from that committee in Congress, whatever that committee was, and say, hey, we mistakenly sent that over. Can you just delete that? We don't want that added to the case. But it was really somebody pretending to be those people from the defense team, pretending to be from Congress. And so the prosecution was like, whoa, hold on. So they see that this has been done and that they're dropping this stuff because you can keep track of everything that's going on with the court case online, I guess. And so they call the court and they're like, whoa, hold on. Nobody from our team called and asked for this to be taken out. What is going on? So the judge gets pissed because apparently somebody from the defense team has impersonated somebody from Congress or whoever from this office and asked for this material to be dropped. And so she told him last night, she's like, you've got till 9:30 tonight to give me an explanation on what this is that you've done and why you've done it. I mean, there's no excuse. It's just, you just don't call and impersonate somebody. That's insane. So these people, and I don't know how they thought they'd get away with it. So like over the weekend, we saw Hunter Biden's attorney with him. I think they were in California somewhere. And the attorney's taking a hit off a bong on the balcony. And yes, it's legal in California, but I mean, you're just a few days before your plea agreement. Maybe do it inside. Like, don't be so public about it, especially if the plan is then to call and pretend to be somebody else to have this amicus brief dropped. And so anyway, it just a hot mess. They had to give a response last night. Their response was basically, oh no, we didn't do that. We identified clearly who we were. This is just a big misunderstanding. We don't know how this happened. Just a bunch of BS, right? So then they get into court this morning. So they had court at 9:30, and I was watching this while I was quickly eating lunch. And the whole plea deal is now falling apart. The judge is like, well, now I've got this amicus brief. There's all this extra stuff. And I don't want to defer all these prosecutions with all this other stuff pending. I guess she has to pretend she doesn't know that all the other stuff is pending and just consider the case that's in front of her. But now that she has the amicus brief, she has to consider that. And so she asked them, the prosecution, she was like, so how do you have a plea agreement? This doesn't even make sense. How did you all come to this plea agreement knowing that all this other stuff was out there? And everybody's kind of, tripping over their thing, trying to explain to her, give her some excuse for this. So the whole plea deal is going to fall apart is basically what's going to happen. I don't think he's going to go to jail or anything. They're probably just going to kick it down the road a little bit, see what happens with these other potential indictments that might come forward. But that is what's going on with that. It just was, in my life, I have never heard of anyone doing such a thing, trying to fool the court. Just absolutely crazy. And so I've got a video. Let me see which one this is. I think it's this one.
All right, on the eve of the potential Hunter Biden plea deal getting finalized, the lawyer for the House Ways and Means Committee requested to file a friend of the court brief, an amicus brief. In essence, the Republican Congress wanted to file all the evidence gathered so they could kill the deal. Well, in response, Hunter's lawyers allegedly called the judge's clerk and pretended to work for the Ways and Means Committee and requested that the evidence be taken down. Now, when this was discovered, the judge in the case threatened Hunter's lawyers with sanctions due to this impersonating of the House Ways and Means Committee. This is insane, and it's a serious breach, and it could, in some cases, this could lead to actual disbarment, certainly sanctions. The story is still developing, but it speaks to the utter desperation and unprofessionalism of Biden's team.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, and I think it should result. I don't think it should just be sanctions. I think that it should result in disbarment. You're attorneys. You know the law. You're held to a higher standard. This was willful. You don't accidentally or mistakenly call and pretend to be somebody from the House Ways and Means Committee and to ask them to just delete this amicus brief that was sent over because you didn't mean for it to go over. Like, the whole thing is a big fat lie, treating the judge in the court with such disregard, like they're idiots or something, as a way to push this plea deal along this morning. And it blew up in their faces, as it should. Shame on them. I'm telling you, if any conservative politician did this, the news would be exploding about it. So I watched, and CNN is talking about it. They're talking about how, this whole plea deal is going to fall apart. They don't think it's going to really cause any harm to Hunter, because he's not really for real going to get prosecuted for anything. I don't have any confidence that he will. You may feel differently about that. The whole thing is just a hot mess. But anyway, I wanted to start there because what a mess that is. So the other news that we have since Sunday, let me get you on the screen share here. Hold on. Stop it. Stream. Okay. The other one that we have is Elon Musk suggests LeBron James' son cardiac arrest may be linked to COVID vaccine. So if you don't know, if you haven't been watching the news, LeBron James's son, Bronny, I think he was at a practice and he collapsed and went into full cardiac arrest, meaning his heart stopped. They got him to the hospital. He's now out of ICU. I don't know exactly what day this happened, but just very glad. I'm not a fan of LeBron James. That doesn't mean I want any harm to come to him or his family. But I would assume if he's playing at the college level, he's probably been vaxxed. And I think LeBron James talked about them being vaxxed. And so there's some question there, why are all these young people having cardiac arrest, blood clots, all kinds of things? They're trying to tell us it's all normal and it's climate change. I've been a nurse a while. I've seen the climate do some pretty weird things. I've never seen heart attacks and blood clots increase as a result. So Bronny James, the son, suffered a medical emergency son of LeBron James, at basketball practice on Monday morning was rushed to the hospital. So here we're at Wednesday, and he's already out of ICU. He was out of ICU yesterday, so that's good. He was rushed to ICU after suffering cardiac arrest, which would mean flatline, during a basketball workout at USC. A spokesperson for the James family said yesterday while practicing, Bronny James suffered cardiac arrest. Medical staff was able to treat Bronny and take him to the hospital. He is now in stable condition and no longer in ICU. Poor kid. I don't know what this is going to do to his career going forward. The spokesperson continued, we ask for respect and privacy for the James family. We'll update the media when we can. Elon Musk suggests that Bronny James' health scare may be linked to the COVID vaccine. Quote, we cannot ascribe everything to the vaccine, but by the same token, we cannot ascribe nothing. Elon Musk said in a tweet, myocarditis is a known side effect. The only question is whether it is rare or uncommon. And the thing that we're seeing a lot of is this subclinical myocarditis. So this inflammation of the muscle, the heart muscle, that doesn't cause enough symptoms to alert the person that something's wrong with their heart. Maybe they're real low energy, they just don't feel well for a period of time, and they write it off to something else, and they don't realize that they have now heart damage from having had myocarditis. Then they get involved in some, they're doing a practice, they're working out, whatever, and that heart muscle cannot keep up because the little myocardial, the myocytes, the little cells that cause the pumping, a bunch of those die when you have myocarditis and they can't pump anymore. I mean, on average, once you've had myocarditis, the life expectancy is about 5 years. So this is a huge deal because these are young people. My mom had myocarditis within 48 hours of her vaccine, and encephalitis, which is swelling of the brain that they told us had nothing to do with the jab. Interesting that she'd never had a heart problem before, and never had any kind of swelling in her brain before. And thank God I had Dr. McCullough that I could reach out to about that, because the doctors here, I mean, they didn't even want to do the tests for myocarditis. But anyway, that's the end of that story. I pray that Bronny does well and that he's okay. I think probably the chance of, if this is myocarditis induced, there's also, you can have a dysrhythmia in the heart that is undiagnosed, and then you're playing sports and it just hits, or it can just hit out of nowhere. And if that's the case, he would have needed an internal pacemaker defibrillator, and they've not said anything about him getting that. So I'm guessing it's not due to a dysrhythmia. If we'll ever know the cause, I don't know. Kay says, did you hear about the Moderna study out of Switzerland? Dr. Campbell discusses it in a video today. 1 in 35 people showed indicators of heart damage after booster. Yeah, that's an older study. But it's a very good study. Yeah, Dr. John Campbell's a nurse, actually. He's got his doctorate in nursing, but he's a nurse. I used to follow him, but when he was like pushing the vaccines and their efficacy, it just really turned me off. Seems like a nice enough guy. And then, so he had pushed them and, was talking about their efficacy. And I don't know how anyone could have read those clinical trials, because from the first day that trial data started coming out, I was warning people. I'm like, look, this is not a well done study. There's a whole bunch of hijinks going on. There's no way that this thing is 90-some% effective with no side effects. There's just, common sense would have told any healthcare practitioner that. And so while Dr. Campbell has turned around, he ended up interviewing some people who were vax damaged, and I think that kind of turned him around on it. But I just kind of had quit following him when he was pushing the jabs. So, but that is a good study, absolutely. So back in September 2021, the Gateway Pundit reported on a shocking new study that was conducted by researchers at Canada's University of Ottawa Heart Institute. It found that 1 out of every 1,000 mRNA COVID-19 vaccinations causes heart inflammation, myopericarditis. So that's myocarditis, the muscle, then pericarditis is the sac that the heart is in, to develop rapidly in otherwise healthy individuals. 1 in 1,000. If you think about how many people have been vaccinated in any previous vaccine, this would have been enough to stop it. we stopped the initial, well, I think the swine flu vaccine in the 70s was stopped after they had verified 53 cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome. And I mean, we're way over that with deaths and injuries, and they're just never going to stop it. They don't care. It's almost like this is a feature of the vaccine. The study looked at over 32,000 individuals who had received either Pfizer or Moderna vaccines and monitored them for heart-related conditions between June 1st, 2021 and July 31st, 2021. Look at that, you guys. That's barely 2 months that they monitored them. And I'd be curious to know what kind of monitoring was done. 32 of the study subjects were admitted to the hospital with heart and chest-related symptoms. There were 15,997 doses of Moderna, 16,832 doses of Pfizer vaccine administered over the study period for a total of 32,000 doses. This is a mixture of first and second doses. So look, 1 in 1,000, and there were 32,000 doses given. Of course, that's first and second, so I don't really know how many people were affected. Does it say 32 of the study subjects out of 32,000? Therefore, if our cohort captured all cases in the Ottawa area, then the incidence of and this is what I'm saying, if you didn't go to the hospital, they didn't catch it, right? So if you had this subclinical myocarditis, it probably got missed. Therefore, if our cohort captured all cases in the Ottawa area, then the incidence of myocarditis would be 0.1% of all doses, or 10 cases of myocarditis for every 10,000 doses of vaccine. Researchers found that the symptoms show up extremely quickly after vaccination, usually after the patient's second dose. That's what happened to my mom. On average, people who were affected developed the condition after just 1.5 days. My mom was just 48 hours outside of that vaccine second dose. They also found that men are at a much greater risk than women. Only 2 women experienced heart inflammation. So out of the 32,379 doses, I don't know how many people were in there. But I would be curious to know how many people attributed, heart palpitations or nausea or chest pain or weakness or feeling like their heart races to a million other things. To me, a well-done study is going to monitor cardiac enzymes at least weekly. Every 3 days would be great, but that's ridiculous. Monitor cardiac enzymes to see if those are increased. You'll see increased cardiac enzymes when there's damage to the heart. So I would like to see those monitored at least weekly. I'd like to see a baseline EKG and a baseline cardiac enzyme and a baseline MRI and an echocardiogram. That would be great. Then what I would like to see is the cardiac enzymes taken weekly thereafter for a year. I would like to see it for a year. I mean, let's do our due diligence. Let's repeat the MRI at 6 months and 1 year. Let's repeat the echocardiogram every 3 months or sooner if we see any changes in cardiac enzymes. That would be what I would consider a vigilant study to see if something's going on that we're not seeing. And I would also make sure that the patient had a significant diary where they could check off any symptoms that might be slightly related to myocarditis, pericarditis. I'd like to see one done on blood clots as well. We're seeing so many clots, but we'll see how that goes. The next story, Gateway Pundit, story changes. Barack and Michelle Obama were on Martha's Vineyard when their private chef mysteriously drowned. And there's more news on this today, but I'll share this with you first. Some would call this an interesting coincidence, while others may suspect something more. It turns out that Barack and Michelle were on Martha's Vineyard at the same time their personal chef drowned under mysterious circumstances. The office previously claimed that the former president and his wife were not present at the residence when Tafari drowned. Now they're altering the story to say they were indeed on the property. The Gateway Pundit reported Monday night that the body of a 45-year-old paddleboarder was found in a pond on Obama's Martha's Vineyard mansion. The person was later identified as Obama's personal chef, Tafari Campbell, who is from Dumfries, Virginia. A 9/11 call came from Obama's residence late Sunday night. We still don't know who made that call. It's Dr. Police were searching for a missing black male paddleboarder in Edgerton, Great Pond on Sunday night. Tafari's wife released a statement. You know, she's very sad. She wants people to leave him alone so that they can heal. And they've got twin 19-year-old sons. So the new news that came out was somebody on Twitter, I can't remember his name, decided to look and see how deep this pond is. And the pond is listed as being only 3 to 4 foot deep. So everybody's kind of curious, where did this other 4 foot of water, because supposedly he drowned in 8 foot of water. He was not an excellent swimmer. He does have on his Instagram, or did have on his Instagram feed, video of him swimming at a swim class. And as I watched him, I'm like, he can swim. He's not a strong swimmer, but he can swim. So I don't know what happened there. If that water is only 3 to 4 foot deep, he could have stood up. To me, that would say, okay, did he have a blood clot? Did he have myocarditis he didn't know about and suddenly had cardiac arrest? Did he have a stroke? If that was truly only 3 to 4 foot of water, that does not explain how this kid drowned or this man drowned. So we'll hopefully learn more about that. I have my doubts because it seems like anytime we need information on something, nobody can get their crap together and give us the information, like the cocaine in the White House. I guarantee you, if I walked into the White House and put thumbtacks in one of those cubbies, they would know I did it. They would stop and question me as to why I had thumbtacks. What was my plan? Why did I put them in the cubby? The same thing with the Obama residence. Why are all these, you're telling me the Secret Service doesn't know exactly what's going on around the president or the former president? I just don't believe that. They didn't know if they were home, that now they were home. They didn't know who made the call. Now we know the call came from the house. The whole thing is just very sketchy, and it drives me crazy that they just won't tell us the truth. Okay, here we go. Joe Biden's new dog has repeatedly attacked Secret Service agents. One agent was bitten so badly he needed hospital treatment. What is up with these dogs? So they had a dog before this that was super aggressive. Now they've got this dog that apparently is no better. I don't know why Biden's dogs are so killy. I mean, something's wrong here. And I would think that you'd make a decision saying, hey, this dog has injured somebody bad enough to need to go to the hospital. Maybe we should rehome him somewhere, or whatever it is you do with dogs that are vicious. Is there no adult in the Biden crime family training these animals, or are they lashing out due to neglectful treatment from their owners? The New York Post exclusively reported that Joe Biden's newest pet, an almost 2-year-old German Shepherd named Commander, has been biting Secret Service agents right and left. Just 2 years ago, Joe and Jill's other German Shepherd dog, Major, was involved in a series of attacks against the agents. The White House later said they gave Major away to family friends. It was later revealed that Joe called one of the agents a liar when he said Major bit him. Why would you lie about that? There have been 7 known attacks against the people sworn to protect our president from September 2022 to January by Commander. That is almost 2 biting incidents a month. One Secret Service agent was injured so badly by the dog he was sent to the hospital. Here's how the Post described the incident. In the most serious documented incident involving Commander, the White House physician's office on November 3, 2022, referred a bitten Secret Service uniformed officer to a local hospital for treatment after the dog clamped down on their arm and thigh while the officer was seated on the stairs, according to emails released under the Freedom of Information Act, obtained by Judicial Watch. Commander came down the stairs and walked toward them, according to an internal agency email. Another officer reported that the attack victim reported a considerable amount of pain and said that they were forced to use a steel cart to shield against further attack. So this isn't just the dog nipping at you. This dog's, attacking, coming after them viciously. The dog, unprovoked, reportedly bit the officer's arm on the tricep area, and when the officer stood up, chomped down on the quad muscle area on the leg. The Post notes that these attacks on Secret Service agents are likely just the tip of the iceberg because they do not cover Commander's initial 9 months at the White House or the most recent 6-month window of time. Judicial Watch Director Tom Fitton says these revelations involving Biden and his dog should raise alarm bells regarding Biden's relationship with the Secret Service. These shocking records raise fundamental questions about President Biden and the Secret Service. This is a special sort of craziness and corruption where a president would allow his dog to repeatedly attack and bite Secret Service and White House personnel, and rather than protect its agents, the Secret Service tried to illegally hide documents about the abuse of its agents and officers by the Biden family. What is going on here? You've been bitten by a dog. Why is this a huge secret? If this dog is vicious, they need to deal with him. He needs to go back and be retrained, be rehomed. If he can't be retrained and he is a danger to people, then sometimes you have to put an animal down. I'm not a fan of putting down animals. We had a cat named Franklin, sweetest cat, and then something happened to him. We don't know what it was. We didn't notice anything happened to him. He stays in the house, so I couldn't tell you what happened to him. But he would suddenly just flip a switch. And he'd be looking at you and look totally normal, and then his eyes would bulge, and he would try to kill you. He'd run up you, try to bite your throat. He would attack the other cats. It was so bad one day, Don got the leaf blower and was trying to get him off the other cats because he was going to kill our little kitty. And he had attacked my son. He'd run up my son and tore through his jeans running up him and went for his throat, and David had to throw him to get him off. Then I was lying down on the couch taking a nap, and I woke up and I was looking at the cat. He was on the floor, and I was immediately nervous. And I moved the blanket, and when I moved the blanket, I looked back at him, and he had those bulging eyes, and he charged me. And then he charged Don. He ran up Don, put 3 huge gashes in Don's leg. We took him to the vet, and he's like, sometimes this happens. We don't know why. This is a vicious animal. We have to put it down. And it just broke our hearts because we loved the cat. Yeah, I thought that too, Gator Claws, that maybe it was a parasite, but the cat had never been outside. And our other inside cats don't go outside either. So I don't know what happened. Yeah, Nurse Penny twice in one day. Hi, Coffin. I'm going camping this weekend. We're leaving Friday. We get back Tuesday. So I wasn't going to be able to do a show Friday or the alternate day Sunday. So I thought, well, what the heck? I'm, ready, and I'll just go ahead and do it today since I had been putting stuff together all week anyway. But yeah, I wondered about like Lyme disease, because Lyme disease can be transferred from mother to baby. So he could have gotten that in utero, but I mean, we'd had him longer than a year, and he just went absolutely nuts. It was crazy. We thought maybe a brain tumor, the way his eyes would bulge out like that. They don't need to go outside, can get it from food or people or environment. Interesting. Scary. Well, we'd never had a cat do that before. I hope it never happens again. Hey, Enlighten. And then this one, the story we already covered. Okay. Oh, then I've got this for you guys. This is a video that JFK did on remdesivir. And he did such
You want to treat them at home. Give them the things that we know kill viral replication.
For COVID.
Zinc and anything that enhances zinc, like hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and 100 other remedies that we now know dramatically reduce the spread of this disease. And what was our protocol? Our protocol was to do none of that. No treatment until you go to the hospital. And then your treatment are 2 things that are bound to kill you: ventilators and remdesivir. And Tony Fauci knew that remdesivir would kill you. He knew that because in 2019, he tried to use it for Ebola. 2019. He tried to use it for Ebola, and within 5 days of treatment, it gave lethal side effect to 54% of the people, and the Safety Monitoring Board ordered him to terminate the use of that drug. And he, through a phony, contrived, absolutely fraudulent study that he manipulated and orchestrated, got that drug made standard of care. It is homicide. And if you look, how does it kill people? 2 ways, 3 ways. kidney failure, heart failure, and all organ collapse. And what happened to the people who died in the pandemic? What were they dying of? Kidney failure. All the doctors said, you heard it again and again, we've never seen a virus that attacks the kidneys. Because it wasn't the virus. It was the remdesivir.
And let me tell you, they knew that it was not the virus. And let me tell you how I know they knew that it wasn't the virus causing kidney failure. Because during COVID, and if you haven't been following me a long time, you didn't know this, I was screaming about remdesivir before they started giving it to people when it was still in clinical trials, because the trials were an absolute joke. But where was I going with that? I hate when that happens. Remdesivir. Oh, that they knew. I know that they knew that COVID wasn't attacking the kidneys, because when people were dying of COVID, and you all might not know this, when people were dying of COVID, they were using them as organ transplant donors. Did you all know that? Is that crazy? So they would donate the kidneys, or I'm trying to think. I saw kidney donations. I can't remember what else. I know I didn't see lungs or heart, but I saw this and I was like, wait. How can a person who had COVID-19 be used as an organ donor for kidneys? I mean, wouldn't it be in every organ? I can't go to the grocery store without a mask on, without standing 6 feet away and holding my breath the whole time I'm in the store. But you can take a kidney out of somebody that's got COVID and give it to me if I need a kidney, and I'm not going to get sick. And that's exactly what happened. They gave people the kidneys. Nobody got COVID. So they knew that COVID was not attacking the kidneys, because you would not be able to transplant kidneys into people if COVID had been attacking them. Now, maybe they weren't watching the research like I was, but shouldn't they be? I mean, I'm a retired nurse and I'm keeping up on what's going on, but they're not. And I'm like, look, you've got this. This is all under HHS, NIH. They know about these organ transplant centers. They know what organs are being transplanted. They knew, and they were studying kidneys being taken from people who died from COVID and put into living recipients. And they were following them to see if they got COVID, and none of them did. So they knew good and well that COVID was not attacking the kidneys, because you could use those kidneys for transplant. So the whole thing has just been a lie. I was just amazed that they could do that they could even, and they didn't, I don't even remember if they had to tell the person that the person they were getting the organ from specifically had COVID. And the other interesting thing is, so Dr. Fauci's wife is on like the scientific research ethics. She's ahead of that over at the NIH. And so she and, who's the guy? Do you guys remember the Surgisphere study? The fake one that the Lancet had to withdraw? So in that study was, it's right, Patel. It's Patel, Surgisphere is Patel, Mandeep Mehra. So Mandeep Mehra, who works at Brigham Women's and Children's Hospital, or Brigham Women's Hospital, he does research there. He's a cardiac guy. He is also involved with this bioethics committee that Dr. Fauci's wife is on. And they have been discussing, so for a long time, if you had HIV, you couldn't get an organ transplant. Well, then they finally made it that if you have HIV, you can get an organ transplant from somebody who has HIV, or you couldn't donate or whatever it was. But now we can use those organs, which is a good thing, because, HIV is largely manageable and you shouldn't die just because you need a kidney. So if somebody dies, you can now get that kidney, or if you die, you can donate your kidney to somebody who has HIV. So now what they're talking about, their new ethics thing that they're toying with, is why should we have to tell people? So right now, so say, God forbid, say Enlighten needs a kidney transplant, right? And so they would come to you and they would say, hey, we've got a kidney. The donor has HIV. Do you want the kidney? And you would say, well, why would anybody do that? Well, give me a minute. Or say it's a heart. Say it's something more important. This donor has a heart, but he has HIV. And you might think, oh, well, I would absolutely say no. Well, if you're in really bad shape and you're going to die soon if you don't get a heart, we can actually treat HIV. And this is how they present this to patients. And that is a choice you can make. They say, look, this is a good, solid heart. The person's HIV has been well controlled. Yes, you might get HIV if you take the heart, but there are treatments for this. And you can live a long life with HIV. You're going to die from this heart thing. And so currently that's something that can happen, right? Now what they're talking about doing is just giving this general consent. So the general consent, so say Enlighten needs a heart. The general consent you would sign would say, I know that if I take a heart from a donor or I take any organ from a donor, that if they have any bloodborne diseases, undiagnosed viral illness, whatever, that could be transmitted to me, and I agree. That's not okay. Because to give you an organ from somebody that they know, and they would know, that they know has HIV, and not give you the opportunity to say yes or no, because this is going to change your life. If you're in a relationship, you've got to worry about your spouse or your significant other. But now they're just wanting to list it like, oh, kind of like when you sign a consent for surgery and they're like, oh, you know what, and they do it like this. Oh, the general risks, infection, bleeding, blah, 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 sign here. And that's basically what they're talking about doing with organ transplants now. Well, you'll just sign this thing that says, of course, there's a risk I could pick up any bloodborne pathogen, any viral illness, anything like that, because I'm getting an organ from a living creature, a person. And you sign the page, but they knew that the person you were getting the organ from, they knew that it wasn't just an off chance. They knew the person had hepatitis, or they knew the person had HIV. That is unethical in my mind, but they are currently moving down that path. So just so you're aware, something you don't hear a lot of talk about that I've really been focused on. But Mandeep Mehra, the thing about Mandeep Mehra is Dr. Mehra was involved in the Surgisphere study, the fake study on hydroxychloroquine, that the Lancet had to what is that, where they take it down? They had to take down the study, redact the study, I guess, because it was complete BS. And while he's doing all of that, he is involved in vaccine clinical trials and in remdesivir clinical trials. And so one has to wonder, why would you be part of a fake study on hydroxychloroquine? Oh, I don't know, maybe because your facility is involved in remdesivir trials and vaccine trials. The whole thing is just, and he's on an ethics committee. He's on the ethics committee with the NIH. Don't trust these people, you guys. Not even for a little minute. All right, next story. Joe Biden allegedly interacted with son's clients more than 200 times. Of course he did. Biden vehemently denied ever talking business with his son or with anyone else in the run-up to the 2020 election. In fact, Biden even fat-shamed an Iowa voter who approached the subject during the Democratic primaries. On the debate stage with Donald Trump, the former vice president peddled conspiracies of Russian interference when emails from Hunter Biden's laptop revealed otherwise. On Sunday night, the New York Post reported on anticipated testimony from Hunter Biden's former business partner, Devon Archer. The 48-year-old, who went golfing with the Bidens in 2014, is expected to tell the House Oversight Committee how Hunter Biden put his father in contact with foreign businessmen and potential investors at least 24 times. According to the Post, such meetings were either in person or by speakerphone, with Hunter Biden often dialing for Joe. Beyond those meetings, there are more than 180 other episodes where the president interacted with his son's business partners, contrary to his campaign claims of absolute separation. 2015 Georgetown dinner. Then Vice President Joe Biden reportedly met with Ukrainian Russian, and Kazakhstani business partners at a famous DC establishment in 2015. The meeting, arranged by Hunter, took place at one of Georgetown's most famous restaurants, Cafe Milano, where the world's most powerful people go, as the local catchphrase goes. Vadim, good lord, these names, Pozharsky, an executive at the Ukrainian energy company Burisma, where Hunter was on the board, thanked Hunter for the introduction to his father. Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to DC and giving an opportunity to meet your father and spent some time together, Pozharsky wrote in an email released by the New York Post weeks before the 2020 election. Hunter Biden sat on the board of Burisma, raking in excessive compensation, while his father dictated White House policy on Ukraine. Records recently made public reveal Burisma's founder paid a $10 million bribe to the Biden family in exchange for political protection. Others on the guest list for the 2015 dinner include Mark Holtzman, who was chairman of Kazakhstan's largest bank at the time, Russian billionaire Yelena Baturina and her husband, the former corrupted mayor Yuri Luzkov of Moscow, who is now deceased. A total of 14 were invited, with several left unnamed. It's unclear if everyone on Hunter's list attended, the New York Post Miranda Devine reported. So then you've got all these West Wing visits. Visitor logs show Hunter Biden's business associates visited the White House at least 80 times while Joe Biden was vice president, according to Fox News. One such visit included a pair of Mexican businessmen who visited the West Wing on February 26, 2014, and were later photographed in the press briefing with the vice president and his son. Another meeting with the vice president at the time included two Chinese businessmen connected to a firm that Hunter Biden was invested in. In 2011, Vice President Biden met with 3 of Hunter's associates, including one foreign national at the White House, according to emails published by Fox News in May. Hunter Biden's diary shows more than 100 events at the vice president's residence while living at the Naval Observatory, according to the New York Post, which is where the vice president lives. Photographs from the same day as one meeting on the calendar for November 19, 2015, feature Mexican billionaires Carlos Slim and Miguel Ailman Velasco. Hunter Biden spent years leveraging White House perks to pursue business deals with Slim. Velasco was one of the 2 businessmen who were pictured in the White House press briefing room with Biden's the previous year. The photo from the vice president's living room at the Naval Observatory also features Velasco's son, Miguel Ailman Magnani, the founder of budget airline Interjet, and Jeff Cooper, who was described by the Post as a longtime Biden family benefactor. Hunter Biden and his wife Kathleen stayed at Magnani's mansion in March 2015. So for all of this ridiculousness of him saying, I've never met with them, I keep it totally separate, I've never spoken with them, absolute provable false. That he'd absolutely lied about these things. Is anything going to be done? Who knows? I have no idea. But it's so funny because this is all the same stuff they were accusing Trump of that they were never able to get any evidence of. But it seems like the evidence is just, the weight of it is crushing. And they still keep going on. And so you'll notice, it was so funny. I mentioned this on Sunday, but Karine Jean-Pierre, I think it was Sunday, said that so they asked her about it. You know, they're like, hey, now that it's come out and we have all this proof that Joe did actually talk to these people and meet with them after he said he didn't, do you want to change your statement on that? And she said, no, my statement is the same as it's been. Nothing's changed. And then she makes a statement that is completely changed and totally different than what it's been. She says, Joe Biden, President Biden, is not in business with Hunter Biden. Well, that wasn't the question. And they do this all the time. That's true. There's no business of all the shell companies that we found so far that are owned or Hunter Biden is involved in that also have Joe Biden's name on them. So technically, she's telling the truth. That's not the question they asked. The question they asked was, now that we know that what you said was false and that he did meet these people multiple times, that he was on phone calls multiple times, hundreds, do you wish to change your statement? And then she says no and changes her statement to something that's completely not in question. We know that they're not listed as business partners on anything. The whole point of them doing it the way they did it was to keep Joe's name out of the paper trail. Unfortunately, they screwed that up with emails and pictures. And I'm like, you guys are the worst criminals ever. You want to lie and say you never met with these people, but you pose for pictures with them. You want to lie and say that you've never spoken with people, but there are emails going back and forth thanking Hunter for allowing these people the opportunity to speak with Joe Biden. I mean, you're the worst liars. I've seen teenagers who lie better. This is just absolutely crazy. Enlighten says, got it, no transplants. No, you can have a transplant. I would just say, before I signed that form, I'm just ensuring that you are telling me that the person who is donating does not have any communicable diseases that you are aware of and that you've tested for those. Because then they're kind of on the hook because you asked the question. But as far as I know right now, they still have to tell you. I'll keep an eye on that, though, if something changes. Okay, did you guys hear about this story, this Carly Russell? What the heck? This girl, I mean, she's a nursing student, Alabama nursing student, 25 years old, beautiful young girl, totally like has a brain meltdown and becomes a complete idiot. I just don't understand. So Carly Russell says she lied about seeing a lost child and being abducted. So if you didn't catch this, the quick overview is that she was leaving somewhere. She said she called 911 and was like, hey, I see a little kid on the side of the road. He's in a diaper. It's a toddler. Then she screams, and then supposedly she's kidnapped. Okay, so let's go from there. This is by Melissa Koenig. I can't remember, Daily Mail. Carly Russell's ex-boyfriend has said he is disgusted with her for lying after she claimed to have been kidnapped on an Alabama interstate after seeing a toddler alone by the side of the road. Tamar Simmons took to Instagram on Monday night to condemn the 26-year-old, saying he'd been blindsided by her fantasy story about being abducted. Of course, why would he think she would lie? He said her web of lies had created hurt, confusion, and dishonesty, and revealed the pair had split following her bombshell confession. Meanwhile, her mother refused to comment on the latest developments, simply telling reporters it's not a good time. It comes after Russell released a statement to police in which she finally admitted she had fabricated the whole story about why she went missing for 49 hours this month. She confessed she'd never saw a toddler and was never whisked away by a kidnapper before she mysteriously turned back up at her parents' house last week. After Russell disappeared on July 13th, Simmons, that's the boyfriend, posted frantic appeals for information on social media and then made a supportive post once Russell returned home. He has not only deleted his posts about her disappearance, but he has also erased every photo of the pair together on social media. He's also unfollowed her. In his statement on Monday, Simmons claimed he was made aware of the false narrative after coming to the defense of my ex, Carly Russell. Carly's actions created hurt. He already said that. He continued, myself and my family's nature was to react in love and genuine concern, he explained. We are disgusted by the outcome of this entire situation. I strongly feel exactly like all of you, blindsided with Carly's actions. Simmons continued, noting the investigation is still ongoing, but with all of the recent information in her confession now, we gain closure with this situation. Simmons went on to thank all the family. The severity of this matter has not been overlooked. I deeply respect the genuine support shared during this situation. Please continue to keep us in your prayers. Also on Monday night, Russell's mother, Talitha, refused to comment to the New York Times about the hoax, saying it wasn't a good time, and abruptly hanging up. She and her husband, Carlos, a vice president at BBVA Bank, said earlier on Monday they were horrified at accusations their daughter invented the saga. Hours later, police confirmed Carly Russell had lied about the events. There was no kidnapping on Thursday, July 13th, said a statement by Russell through her lawyer. It added, Carly again asks for your forgiveness and prayers. Talitha, the mother, who last week appeared on Today to discuss her daughter's abduction, is not thought to have been involved in the nursing student scheme. Okay, so this is a little map. So up here you've got number one, Thursday, July 12th, 8:30, Carly Russell leaves her job at the Woodhouse Spa in Birmingham, Alabama. She stops at a nearby Target for snacks before driving home. 9:34, so that's an hour later, Carly's car is seen slowing down on I-459 near mile marker 11. She calls 911 to report a male toddler walking along the side of the road in a diaper. She then calls her brother's girlfriend, who hears her asking the child, "Are you okay?" before screaming. 6 minutes later, cops arrive to find her abandoned car with her wig, cell phone, purse, and Apple Watch. And then Saturday, July 15th, Carly appears at the home she shares with her parents, claiming that she was abducted. Carly has given detectives her statement so that they can continue to pursue her abductor, said Talitha Russell in the Today Show interview. That's her mom there. Pressed on whether they believe an abductor is at large in the case, Talitha responded, absolutely. Why would she think anything else? This poor woman. I can't even imagine what this family's going through. Carly's father, Carlos, nodded in agreement. The parents said they were subjected to cruel taunting and fake messages, claiming to have information about their daughter while she was missing. Horrible. There were actually just so many calls and texts from people who maliciously lied to us, said Talitha. I just didn't know people could be so evil. So I'm guessing some of those people were like, hey, she's fine. The mother grew emotional as she described the moment she was reunited with her daughter, saying the reunion was filled with so much joy. We tried to hug as best we could, but I had to stand back because she was not in a good state. I don't know what that means. So we had to stand back and let medical professionals work with her, she said. Dursey said police are continuing to work on the case and prosecutors are still deciding if criminal charges should be filed. I mean, barring that she's had some kind of psychotic break, yes, you need to charge her. This is crazy. Social media users erupted in fury at the news. Can you imagine that? I just feel so sorry for this family. I can't imagine. Russell stopped cooperating with police after returning home, but initially told police she was taken by a white man with orange hair. She was kidnapped by Donald Trump. Russell stopped cooperating with police after returning home, but initially told police she was taken by a white man with orange hair who appeared from the trees on the side of I-459 after she saw a baby boy in a diaper walking along the road. What the absolute heck? A white man with orange hair. And you never hear orange hair described as orange unless people are talking about Trump. Generally, they say red hair. Last week, Dursey said they had been unable to confirm Russell's story and wanted to speak to her to clarify details. She refused to sit for a second interview. Police said on Monday that they were scheduled to meet with Russell, but her lawyer provided the statement that was read to the public instead. Investigators also determined Russell researched the Liam Neeson movie Taken and whether she was too old for an Amber Alert. She planned this out, plus searched for a one-way bus ticket to Nashville. Her boyfriend, Tamar Simmons, has initially been among those frantically searching for her and expressed his relief when she turned up, but after Wednesday's press conference, he erased all trace of her on social media. Russell's family are not believed to have known about the scheme. On July 17th, the day after she turned back up at her parents' house, they recalled how they found Russell in a bad state, her, the girl. She fought for her life, her father Carlos, a VP of underwriting at BBVA Bank, said. Russell left work at Woodhouse Spa in Birmingham, Alabama at 8:20 p.m. on July 13th after stealing a bathrobe and toilet paper. She then stopped to pick up food for her and her mother. Russell traveled toward Hoover and called 911 at about 9:30 to report the missing child wandering on the side of Interstate 459. After calling 911, Russell reportedly called her sister-in-law to tell her she was going to check up on the child. The family member lost contact with her at 9:36, but the line remained open. Responding officers located Russell's abandoned car along with her cell phone, purse, wig, and Apple Watch in the nearby area, but no sign of her or a child. Hoover police said they never received any other calls of someone missing a small child. 2 days later, Russell returned home alone. Dursey said on Monday it seemed there was significant degree of planning. This was an elaborate deal. When you talk about calling 911 and saying there was a child on the interstate, he said. Asked why she did it, he replied, I wish I could tell you. I think only Carly knows, and maybe her attorney knows now. Dursey said they will ask Russell's attorney, Emery Anthony, for an opportunity to interview the nursing student, and said she was disappointed, or he was disappointed at her actions. The sad thing is, there were so many people involved and took this thing very, very seriously. And again, we wanted the focus to be to bring her home, and she got home. We're very excited about that. It is what it is. We know that it was a hoax. Dursey was unable to say how much the 49-hour search operation cost or whether she would be forced to repay the money. Large numbers of volunteers, uniformed officers, and canine teams searched for Russell for days with helicopters sent. It was all hands on deck. We don't have a dollar figure yet, but we've certainly worked on getting one, and not only ours, but other agencies that gave us a lot of support, he said. On Friday, her boss said she'd been fired. Police said in an update last week that investigators traced her every move and corroborated her story up until the 9/11 call where Russell reported seeing a toddler along the side. And if she's a nursing student and she's charged, she cannot finish nursing school, can't get her nursing license, if they charge her with a felony anyway. We pretty much know exactly what took place from the time she left work until she got on the 911 call. Dursey said at the time, we can see getting out of the car on the interstate from that footage. After that, I think she only knows, we don't. We can see her getting out of the car. He added, what we can say is we have been unable to verify most of Carly's initial statement made to investigators, and we have no reason to believe there is a threat to public safety. Detectives stopped short of accusing her of maliciously lying, but instead questioned her mental state. She said a man came out of the trees and mumbled that he was checking on the baby, then picked her up and took her over a fence, and she's not a tiny girl, and into a car. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I'm not a tiny girl. She said the next thing she remembered was being in the trailer of an 18-wheeler, and that there was a female whose voice she heard but who she didn't see. She told detectives she could hear a baby crying and that the male had orange hair. Russell's story included escaping from the pair, then being recaptured. She says they blindfolded her but didn't tie her up because they didn't want to leave compression marks, Dursey said. She also told authorities the pair made her strip and photographed her body, but said they did not physically or sexually abuse her. Police said in an update last week that investigators traced her every move, corroborated her story up until the 911 call, where Russell reported seeing the toddler. We pretty much know exactly what took place. We already read that. Okay, I must have gotten that in there twice somehow. Hold on. Russell claimed she managed to escape from them while they were moving her in a vehicle and that she ran home. As the case unfolded, it emerged that Russell tweeted about wanting to start a family shortly before she vanished. While her social media accounts do not explain her behavior, they paint a picture of a melancholic young woman who was unlucky in love and fed up with work. Just 15 minutes before she called 911 at 9:20 p.m., she was sitting in the parking lot of a Target superstore and tweeting about wanting a family now. Roughly 30 minutes before that, she tweeted, "Today was a great day. God be looking out, I'm telling you." Russell's boyfriend, Simmons, was initially supportive of his girlfriend and expressed relief at her return, but now scrubbed her from everything. While he made loving appeals for information about her whereabouts, Russell's Twitter account suggests all was not well in the relationship in the weeks before the ordeal. She complained about men throwing everything away for a hoe or a stripper. "I always say one thing I won't do is stay with someone who cheated on me," read another of her tweets. In that instance, she was referring to another Twitter user and not Simmons. But it was clear romance was on her mind. "Everyone wants to feel wanted," she tweeted at 3:08 a.m. on July 8th, 5 days before she vanished. Oh gosh, hold on, let me catch your comment. Malignant narcissism. Right, but you'd think you would see that leading up. Cheryl says, malignant narcissism is very real, the culture of constant attention. I agree, but I just course, we don't know anything about her past. Maybe all of the signs were there and nobody thought anything of it. Another Smollett. Exactly, exactly. Hey, Lady Be Good. I was just talking about you the other day. Um, so anyway, this is Tamar's post, and he refers to her as his girlfriend. So it sounds like they were still together. I mean, lovely girl. I like, why would you? She's got her nursing degree or getting her nursing degree. I don't know if that's a high school picture, maybe. Um, it's just crazy. What are people thinking? And I just, there's that, of course, a part of me that feels sorry for her because, I mean, everybody hates her now. So if she was melancholy before and lonely and wanted a family, I mean, the chances of her getting one now aren't great. And, her reputation is dirt now. And her poor family, it sounds like her dad has a pretty important job and like they're attentive, focused parents. I didn't get the impression they were divorced or anything or that there was stress in the home, but you never know. Um, why somebody would suddenly need this kind of attention. It's so funny. I'm really direct. There we go. When Don and I first got together, I hadn't been in a relationship in a very, very, very long time. And it was all very new to me. And so I found that I didn't realize how much I missed being like hugged and held and just snuggled. And and so I told Don one day, I said, look, I'm not one of those girls that's like going to stir up a fight or some contention to get attention from you. And so just so you don't think I'm weird, I want you to know that what I'll do if I need attention from you is I'll say, hey, I need attention from you, which he thought was hysterical. And I said, well, doesn't that just make much better sense if you're not giving me a lot, or enough attention? I don't need much, actually. But if you're not giving me enough attention, is that okay? I'll just come to you and say, hey, I need some focus time. I need your attention. And that's how we've done it our entire relationship. I don't know why someone wouldn't just be direct and say what they need as opposed to causing all of this nightmare for her family and friends and community. Bless her heart. I hope she's okay. I always fall back on empathy, as I know I probably am naive in that. Okay, that's not the whole thing. Is that everything? That's everything. See, not much has happened since Sunday. Let's make sure I didn't miss any stories here. Naval Observatory, we did that. That was it. That's all I've got. What do you guys want to talk about? I didn't see anything new on, is it Tafari, the person that drowned at Barack Obama's house? Tafari something. Yeah, Tafari Campbell. The only new thing I saw in that was that the pond that he supposedly was found in is not 8 foot deep. It's 3 to 4 foot deep. I think that was like per Wikipedia or something. We'll have to look and see. I can't remember the name of the pond. Oh, I know the other thing I wanted to talk about was this new MERS Cove thing. Have you guys seen this? There's some new, strange, virulent new MERS-CoV virus that's 36% lethal. Okay. I'm so tired of being lied to. MERS-CoV is what it is. This is the MERS virus from what, 1998? I can't remember when MERS broke out, 2000 something, I don't know. Anyway, they were just calling it MERS then, and they're acting like MERS and coronavirus have combined, and now they're making this MERS that's super scary and COVID. This is not the case. MERS is a coronavirus. MERS is a type of coronavirus. Just like, there's different types of herpes viruses. So MERS is a very lethal type of coronavirus that is gotten from camels. It's very hard to transmit. I think when it went around, there were like 200 and some deaths. It doesn't transmit well because it's so lethal. And so if you're a virus that causes death, the host dies, and then you don't get a chance to go on because you're killing your hosts. And so just know when they say MERS-CoV that this is the same MERS that always was. This is not a new thing. It's not like MERS and COVID, are now a couple. MERS is a coronavirus, and they're just calling it MERS-CoV. So don't sweat that. I didn't want y'all to be worried about that. That chef got Clinton sided. The chef saw Big Mike being standing up, you guys. I don't know. He wasn't a strong swimmer. Let's say it was 8 foot of water. Okay, he's not a strong swimmer. The thing that gets people into trouble and causes drowning is generally panic. I mean, unless you're talking about a young child who can't swim. They panic. They start going under. They take on a little bit of water. They panic more, and then they drown. What's interesting is the way the story is told. Supposedly there's a second paddleboarder. We don't know who this person is. We don't know if this person was paddleboarding with him or just happened to be in the area and see this. But supposedly he didn't have a life jacket on, which seems very strange to me because he knew he wasn't a strong swimmer. But the story is that he just went under and never came back up. Not that he went under and splashed and came up and gasped and went under again and kept going under until he didn't come up anymore. So that leads me to believe that he was dead when he hit the water or incapacitated. Because when somebody drowns, they don't just sink to the bottom like a stone unless it's a kid, because they just start swallowing water and they can't swim well enough to keep themselves up. So if what that person said they saw is true, and he just went down and did not come back up, then I've got to think cardiac arrest, stroke, just even fainting would be enough to send you under the water and you not wake up. But I would think when you hit the water, you would wake up. But yeah, I'm thinking blood clot, which could cause stroke or cardiac arrest, some other catastrophic thing. I know that they said they had the cause of death by the next morning, and they said drowning. And I'm like, but like that doesn't make any sense. Generally when, even adults who can't swim that drowned, they generally flail and splash and carry on and go under and come up and go under and come. I mean, they fight it. They don't just go down like a bag of bricks. So, so it makes me wonder, was he vaxxed? Did he have some subclinical myocarditis a while back that wasn't recognized? And now he's got heart damage. He's out there pedaling around and has a heart attack and just drops. And, it's not unheard of for young people to have heart attacks. We're definitely seeing a lot more than we ever have, but it could just be, I just can't imagine he was around the Obamas and wasn't vaxxed. It was totally safe and effective drowning. Yeah, it's so funny. Somebody said something the other day, and I think it was on Salty's channel. And I posted, Nurse Penny here, drowning is 100% effective at preventing hospitalization and death from COVID-19. As a joke on some of these ridiculous studies that we've seen on these vaccines and other treatments. But yeah, very sad. I mean, twin boys, 19 years old, I think, and a wife. And, I'm sure it seems like a great honor to be able to go to work for a president. I'm just encouraging everybody who's looking at starting their life and career and everything, don't go to work for political people. Don't do it. I don't know of any that I trust, and who knows what might happen to you. There's got to be a better group of people for you to work for. Michael says, how about the police looking for this guy going door to door? Obamas weren't home. Then they were in Martha's Vineyard, but not at home. Yeah, I was reading about that, where they first said, they weren't even on the island. Then it was like, oh, they weren't home. Oh, they were on the island, but they weren't home. I didn't see the thing about going door to door, though. I'll have to look for that, because I've looked to see, I've really been searching to see if anybody's, you get online and you look for a story and it's just the same. It's the same exact, because it's a script. It's the same story from every news outlet, word for word. That didn't used to be a thing. It used to be you'd get the news, the information from like the Telegraph Service, the Associated Press, something like that. And then you would write your take on that story and you would try to find more information to add to it. Now it's just a script comes down, the newspapers print it, the media reads it, and it's exactly word for word the same thing. Especially don't work for the Clintons. That is solid advice, my friend. Don't work for the Clintons. First of all, Hillary's so damn mean. I can't imagine how they keep any staff. She is just horrible. Um, I mean, she's been known to throw things at people, cuss at people. She told the Secret Service that when she comes into a room or down the hall, she better not see them. And so Secret Service agents would tell tales of like, leaping into an office to get out of her field of vision or standing behind a curtain because she was going to walk by and they didn't want to, you know, uh, have to experience her wrath. In 2015, Hillary's chef drowned while hiking in the desert. I know. What is that? Like in drown in what? Just a few inches of water? What did they say about that, Rare Skill? It was um wasn't a ravine. Was it a ravine? Something weird. Let's look that up. Let's do it over here. Clinton chef drowns. Of course, everything that comes up is Tafari Campbell. Free Beacon. Oh, let's look at that. Rare Skill says at least they dumped his body in the water this time. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. This is Washington Free Beacon, Axis of Evil, Obama Clintons linked by suspicious deaths. So it says Barack Obama's personal chef drowned earlier this week near the former president's $18 million estate on Martha's. It wasn't near the estate. That pond is on the property, right? Roughly 8 years after Hillary Clinton's chef drowned while hiking in New Mexico. Tafari Campbell, 45, worked in the White House kitchen before the Obamas hired him as their personal chef. His body was recovered from Edgartown Great Park on Great Pond. If someone can look that up for me, Edgartown, Edgartown, Great Pond, and see if you can find a depth on that pond. I would appreciate that. If not, I'll look it up here in a minute. After a paddleboarder reported seeing someone struggling in the water. Okay, now they're struggling in the water. Walter Scheib, the former White House chef originally hired by Hillary Clinton in '94, was determined to have drowned after his body was recovered near a hiking trail in Taos, New Mexico in June of 2015. Why it matters. Maybe it's just coincidence, but 2 former White House chefs dying via drowning since 2015 seems pretty suspicious, especially when the Clintons are involved. Crucial context. Hillary Clinton is widely suspected of playing a role in the so-called suicide death of Jeffrey Epstein, the jet-setting pedophile who hanged himself in his Manhattan jail cell in 2019. Hillary's nominal husband, former President Bill Clinton, made several trips with Epstein aboard the pedophile's private jet. Amateur sleuths have raised questions about the alleged suicide of Vince Foster in 1993. Foster was deputy counsel to the Clinton White House at the time and was struggling to handle the legal fallout from the Whitewater real estate controversy, one of the many Clinton scandals during the 90s. Hillary reportedly bullied Foster and was riding him every minute prior to death. He could have used a different cheese. These sleuths have expressed concern about the alleged suicide of Edward Willey, the husband of Kathleen Willey, who accused then President Clinton of sexually assaulting her in '93. Oh, I didn't know about that one. Well, that's it. They don't really have anything more than that. They're just speculating. What was the name of the Edgartown? Was that it? Edgartown Pond? Edgartown Pond? Edgartown. Yeah, thank you, Michael. 3 to 4.3 feet in depth. So where did this 8 feet come from? Maybe they found him in 8 foot of water. Maybe his body drifted. But if it's in that pond, and that's the depth, when they give you the depth, they generally give you the deepest depth. I would think the deepest depth of that pond would be 4.3. Wouldn't you, Michael? Do you know anything about how that works? Like, we've got a lake here. We're going to the lake this weekend. When you look up the depth of that lake, they tell you the deepest depth of the lake. So I would assume that if Edgartown Pond is 3 to 4.3 foot deep, that is the deepest depth. And if he was found in that pond, how on earth was he found in 8 foot of water? And yes, he could have still drowned in 3 foot of water if he had a heart attack or a stroke or whatever. You could drown in, an inch of water. if that was the case. So I don't know. I try not to think everything is a conspiracy, while at the same time thinking everything might be a conspiracy. And it's so funny because they want to like say that that is a personality flaw in many of us, and I'm like, no, no, you did this to us. That's like saying a woman whose wife repeatedly cheats on her, um, is paranoid and it's her fault. You know, she's just crazy. She's paranoid. No, 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 no. She's paranoid because she's got proof that her husband has cheated on her multiple times. She's not even paranoid. She's realistic. She's knowing. So this idea that just because we don't believe the story they tell us, that we're all crazy conspiracy theorists. I'm like, no, it's that you lie all the time. All the time you lie. We catch you in lies almost every single day. All the time. All the time. You lie. You're liars. That's why we don't trust anything you say. If you would like find who put the coke in the White House, if you could figure out how this guy drowned, if you could figure out what's going on with Hunter Biden's lawyers calling to pretending to be, oh, what was the committee? I can't remember now. The ways, being a representative of the House Ways and Means Committee. So the defense lawyer for Hunter Biden is pretending to be from the House Ways and Means Committee, who sent over an amicus brief telling the judge, hey, all these other things are in the middle of investigation. More charges might be coming. You might want to reconsider this plea deal. And so they pretend to be somebody from the Ways and Means Committee and say, oh, yeah, sorry, we didn't mean to send that over. Could you just disregard that? And it was taken off. And then the prosecutors find out and they're like, whoa, what the hell? Nobody from our office called to do that. And then it turns out they did it, and they're like, oh, it was just a misunderstanding. And they gave the right name. And how would this clerk get the idea that it was this person from the Ways and Means Committee if the person who called actually gave and why did she call? They're like, oh, no, this person called and she gave her name, and the phone number would have come up on caller ID. Why is she calling at all? Nobody from your team should have called. This was an amicus brief. You have no authority to ask anybody at the courthouse to dismiss it or get rid of it. Why are you calling at all? That doesn't even make any sense. Why doesn't someone ask that question? Well, what were you calling about then? Don't know. He could have just stood up unless he had a heart attack and he was unconscious when he hit the water. Or if he had a stroke or any number of other things. That was my thinking, because initially they said he fell off the paddleboard and went down and didn't come back up. And I'm like, well, that strikes me as somebody who is unconscious when they hit the water, because they're not flailing, which is what you expect in someone who drowns and can't swim. Or he would have just stood up. So, was he on drugs? I would think that's something they test for if you work for the president. And I would think he'd be regularly, searched and things like that. So, and there's no, my apologies to his wife and kids if you ever see this. I'm not accusing him of anything. But I just doubt that he would have taken a bunch of drugs and gone paddleboarding, especially when he wasn't super secure in the water, which to me, Michael, if you think about it, it makes sense that would be where he's paddleboarding. If you know you're not a great swimmer and you're going to go out without a life jacket, you go to the pond that's only 3 to 4.5 foot deep, because if you fall in, you can just stand up. And maybe that's why his ankle wasn't tethered to his board, because he knew if he fell off, he could just stand up. It wasn't going to be any big deal. So that makes sense to me. And generally the things that make sense tend to be true. So then it makes me think, did he have a shot? Did he have a clot? Did he have a heart attack? Was he already dead or dying when he hit that water? Maybe so. I don't know. I just don't understand why you would lie about where the Obamas were. Like, where are these stories coming from that nobody can get it right? Now, it's absolutely true. Like in a community, say someone's house burns down in the community today, there'll be 20 different stories about who was home, who wasn't home, what went on. It'll all be this confused mess. But when you're getting news like this, it's coming from spokespeople, right? Whoever the spokesperson is for the Obamas, or the lawyer, or these are official people. This isn't, you're hearing from 20 people who lived in the area. This is the person who's coming out and telling the story as the spokesperson. And it just doesn't make any sense to me why they can't get it right. The same thing with the cocaine. Like, how many times did that baggie of cocaine, get up and walk to a different room? I don't understand, because before this information is released to the press, it has to go through somebody, and that is the person who coordinates the information going out to the press. That's how that works. It's like, I've worked at hospitals in the past. If there's some kind of news that happens at the hospital, the nurses don't get to talk to the press. I mean, unless you're assigned. But generally, no. We've got a PR person who comes out, and they handle all of that. And so they've got all their details right. If something's a little off, yeah. But it's never, you know, three different locations on something. The facts are always pretty close. Like, there might be clarification that comes to light a little after. Oh yeah, we initially thought this, but upon further investigation, this. No, this is like this all the time. It was in the library. No, it was in the cubbies in a visitor area. It was under Hunter's pillow. The whole thing is just BS. And it's just so obvious that we're being lied to, that they're fabricating the story as they go. Because especially in the case of the cocaine, like, they had to know where it was found, because it was a white substance, and it was a white substance on the heels of white substance being sent to multiple people. That, I don't know if you guys missed that story, but if you did, there were multiple people in government that were getting packages of white powder just recently, right before this, actually. And so they were investigating it and finding that there was nothing, that the white powder was inert. Wasn't any problem. And then right on the heels of that, you've got white powder show up at the White House. So their initial thought is, this could be anthrax. This could be any number of things. And I'm sure there's protocol for, if you find something like that in the White House, how this is. I mean, this isn't Keystone Cops. This isn't stuff they're not prepared for. So the fact that you can't get a straight story is very telling. And to me, it's not disorganization, it's lying. Because you've got things in place. You've already found how many baggies of white stuff that you all have had to investigate, and figured out it was nothing. So when you find that baggie, it's like, okay, look, I'm a nurse. If I come into the room and my patient is non-responsive and is blue, right? The first thing I do is I look up at the clock. And so I'm like, okay, it's 2:57, patient down, non-responsive, blue, pull the code call. And I'm thinking all this while I'm moving. I'm not, losing steps. I get the bed flat, pull the headboard out, get it under the patient, check for a pulse, check for breathing, start doing CPR. People, start responding, and I'm running the code until the doctor or pharmacy gets there. And then they generally take over. But I'm doing compressions, but people are getting the bag ready. They're starting to bag the patient. We're waiting on respiratory therapy to get there to intubate the patient. We've got pharmacy coming with the code cart and drugs. Usually the code cart's already there, but the pharmacist is there. You've got a person who's writing down everything, and I'm yelling, you write everything down. That's the recorder. That's the person who writes everything down during the code. They keep track of what drugs are given and what time, what shocks are given, when we started compressions, when we stopped, what the patient's vital signs were, all that kind of stuff. I've run a bunch of codes. I mean, I worked in the cardiothoracic ICU, and most of my work was in ICU, and it was nothing when I worked at the big hospital for us to run a code a day. And I can tell you, we were just so trained in that it went off like clockwork. The only time codes were ever like frantic or maybe slightly disorganized would be pediatrics. And that's just because there's a whole different dynamic. We're all trained in pediatric advanced life support, or we were in our unit anyway. But generally peds would run their own codes, but every once in a while you'd have a kid code in the ER. And yes, that's frantic because it's a kid. But basically we're still following all the same things. The drugs are a little different, all of the equipment's smaller, that sort of thing. So I just cannot imagine this well-oiled. It's not like the Secret Service is brand new when the president comes in. You've got Secret Service agents who are seasoned in their work. And so they know what they're doing. It isn't like a whole new crew of people comes in. Um, yes, you might have a different person guarding the president, but he didn't just graduate from president guarding school 2 days ago. So I just don't believe that it is this disorganized. And if it is, there's a serious problem. Haywood says, can't find whose cocaine it is, but they can find the wheelchair bound grandma that was in the Capitol between the velvet ropes on J6, right? And that's what gets me. Did you watch last night? Where did I see it? I was so mad I was shaken. Robert Gavoya on Rumble had a video, and they were the video was about this guy who is a police officer on January 6th. And he was talking about his injuries and how he had neglected his injuries um, to give this protester CPR, which I think was Rose Boyland. Is that right? Um, anyway, the video has surfaced, right? Supposedly, this guy's so injured that he's not returned back to work. The video surfaces. So he's there. They've got Roseanne Boylan on the ground or on a small short stretch or something. I'm not sure. And somebody's doing compressions, but it's not this guy. And I'm as a nurse, I'm keyed in, and I'm like 1 and 2 and 3, and okay, good compressions. I'm guessing she probably was just bludgeoned to death, so she's not going to respond. Her heart probably stopped because of a brain injury. And anyway, supposedly this guy's saying that he did compressions. He never touched her. It didn't go near her, didn't do one compression. I watched the whole thing. And he's saying that his foot was just so crushed, and, he had to have all these stitches. He's walking totally fine, back and forth, shifting weight from leg to leg. That his thumb was and his thumb still hurts. I'm like, your thumb still hurts? You're kidding me, right? Like and I guess he never thought this video would come out, but then the video comes out. There's no blood on him. His foot's not bleeding. He does not appear to be injured in any way. Nobody else is like coming over, and there were a bunch of officers there. I would say at least 9. There's a bunch of officers there. He's not so hurt that one of the officers isn't coming over to him and sitting him down and trying to get his shoe off and tend to him. It's all BS. I'm like, this guy's fine. And I'm guessing he's going to get work comp for life just so he'll keep his mouth shut. But I mean, if that guy had such a bad injury that he can't go to work all this time later because his thumb still hurts, I'm like, there's no light duty they could put you on. And there's just no sign in that video. Let me find I'm going to give you guys the link so you can watch this. Oh, it made me so mad. Rumble. Shoot. Watch, I won't be able to remember which one it is. Let's find Robert's page. Where's he at? Robert. Elemental Robert, that's what we'll call him. Okay, this was yesterday. Is it? I don't know if it's the expungement thing. Pence gave Jack Smith exactly what he wants. That's not it. Okay, this is it. Let me copy this for you guys. Hold on, share. Copy. Okay, I'm going to put this in the chat. If it lets me put it in the chat. Here we go. Paste. And then let me see if I can pull this up and share it. I'm trying to think how to do that. I'm not able to use my there's something wrong with my regular software that I use for this. Oh, for Pete's sake, hold on. Oh, I totally lost it. This one, okay. Okay, StreamYard. Let's see if I can share this tab. Stop screen share. Biden impeachment fever, that's it. Share sound. Okay, let me see if I can find this. I want you guys to see this. Let's make this bigger. Oh, let me make sure. Yeah, you can see it. Okay. All right, let's play this. Oh, come on. This is 15 seconds. What the? I know that's a whole video. I watched it yesterday. So did 10,000 other people. It's 15. All right, let me go back. Maybe he did too. J6 Officer Gonald. That's it. It says it's 0 minutes long. Okay, well, I'm losing my mind. I don't know where it is. I will try to find that for you guys. Biden sues, CNN stumped. Maybe it didn't save the video for him or something. I don't know. But a bunch of us watched it in the live stream. And now it's showing that there's nothing there. Jack Smith. Face. No, I can't find it, guys. Sorry. Anyway, he shows this footage, and I was shaking mad by the time it was done. I was just so outraged, and that part of it is, as a nurse, the government's done pissed me off so bad. I couldn't even go back to nursing now. Just lying and all of the damage that has been done to the good people of this country. It kills my soul. The other thing is intentional harm. And I'm watching this guy, and he's like, well, my thumb still hurts. And I'm watching this film of Boylan laying there, getting compressions, dying, already dead, actually, because she was beaten to death and didn't do anything to deserve to be beaten to death. And this guy's saying, but, my thumb hurts. My thumb still hurts. I was just like, are you flipping kidding me right now? That woman died feet from you. You said you did CPR on her. You absolutely are a liar. What else are you lying about? And I'm guessing they gave him a story to tell, or I don't know, maybe he fabricated. I don't know what makes people do these things. I cannot imagine lying, especially about something so important. I mean, unless you're scared for your own life if you don't lie. I guess if someone said, look, we're going to kill your kids or your grandkids if you don't tell this story, then I'm kind of screwed. I'm going to lie to protect them. Absolutely. But that's the only thing I could think of, or done, somebody I love. Hell, if somebody said, hey, I'm going to kill Zero Sugar 101 unless you do this, I would be like, okay, well, I can't have Zero Sugar 101 die. I don't know who that person is, but I can't let someone die. And this guy is pretending to have tried to save this woman's life while I'm watching her dead just feet from him and him do nothing. It makes me teary-eyed. I just, her poor family, and what must she have, I can't imagine being bludgeoned to death by police officers. And I have great empathy for people who do die at the hands of police, because sometimes they are awful. A lot of times it's, the person has just brought it down on themselves because they won't comply. They're fighting, that sort of thing. But, every once in a while we do get a case where you're like, what on earth were they thinking? And I've lived in small towns, and I've seen how some small town, not all, I've mostly had really good experiences with police officers, but I've seen how they can bully and carry on. And I've seen it myself. I've had it done to myself in a small town where a cop was bullying me. He was trying to pull me over. So I had gone across this bridge in this Michigan town that I was unfamiliar with. And there is a speed limit sign on the bridge. But at that time of day, the sun is reflecting off the bridge, and you can barely see in front of you. There's no way you're going to see that sign. In fact, I think that it's put there for that reason, as a speed trap, right? So this cop pulls up behind me, and he puts his lights on. And I'm on a bridge, I can't pull over. And then I'm going through town, and the teenagers are all cruising. And then there's like that slanted parking in front of the strip of, stores on the strip there. And I didn't want to pull over there. There wasn't really much parking, for one. And I thought, I want to pull over up where there's more room, because I don't want this cop to get hit. And so I drive through town, maybe not even a mile. And I've got my hazards on, so he knows that I see him, that I'm not, trying to outrun him at 20 miles an hour. And I pull over in front of this church there's a big shoulder there, and then there's grass. And I'm like, if I pull over here and he pulls over just outside of me, there's no way he's going to get hit. And so I pull over, and he immediately starts screaming at me. I mean, I was just astonished. And he's like, why didn't you pull over when you saw the lights come on? You knew I was back there. And he's yelling. And I said, officer, I'm so sorry. It was not my intention to upset you. There was no safe place for me to pull over. And the law says I'm to pull over immediately as soon as it's safe. And so I was pulling over because I wanted to give you enough room with all these kids cruising that you didn't accidentally get hit. And he's still screaming at me, what am I doing there? Why am I in this town? Why am I there from Kentucky? And I'm like, well, my father-in-law passed away and we're here working on his property to sell. And he didn't believe me. I don't believe that. What are you really doing here? I'm like, what do you mean? What am I really doing? Do I look like I'm up to something? And he was just convinced that I was up to something and kept screaming at me. And I said, look, I was speeding. I shouldn't have been speeding. I didn't see the sign. I said, my husband has sent me to Lowe's, and this was during COVID. My husband has sent me to Lowe's. They close at this time, and I'm supposed to get this particular tool, and I was hurrying. It's my fault. I understand that I deserve a ticket. Could you please write me that ticket so that I can get to the store to get this thing that he needs before they close? And so finally he lets me out of there after yelling at me for probably 20 minutes. And then the store ends up being open an hour later than we thought, and I didn't have to rush to begin with. Oh, I didn't get out of the ticket either. And it was expensive. It was like $130. The Observer, Mitch McConnell freezes during GOP news conference, escorted away. Didn't he just have a fall? And I thought he was retiring. Why is the turtle still there? Zero Sugar, welcome. Blackmail is the name of their game. Do you think that's it? Do you think that, do you think that's it with everything? The cocaine in the White House. Do you think the reason that it was 3 locations before they finally settled on a location that was, somebody being threatened to keep their mouth shut? I could believe that. Do you think it also applies for if something nefarious went on with this fella that drowned? Looked like a stroke. Oh, with McConnell? I wouldn't doubt it. Let's see if we can find it. Mitch McConnell freezes. If I could spell. Hopefully Trumbull can be reached. There we go. And his illegal ties to Solar Winds. That's not it. Mitch McConnell. This is all old. I'm not seeing anything. If you guys have got a link, shoot it to me and I'll pull it up. Trying to catch up here. Looked like a stroke. Huh. Well, I hope not. But he's that age. Let me see if I can find it in the general search. Mitch McConnell. Oh, here we go. NBC News. Mitch, stop it. I don't want to look at your ads. Just tell me what it is. All right, CNN. Mitch McConnell says he's fine after freezing during the news. Let's see if we can share the screen. There we
go. We're on a path to finishing the NDA this week. It's been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of
wow.
Are you good, Mitch?
Okay, Mitch. Anything else you want to say, or should we just go back to the press? Do you want to say anything else to the press? Go back.
Go ahead, John.
We'll take it. Let's go back to
Go ahead, John.
Oh, wow. He's really confused.
Could you address what happened at the start of the press conference, and was it related to your injury from earlier this year where you suffered a concussion? Is that
Yes, I am Nurse Penny from Salty
fine,
Cracker.
fully able to do your job?
He doesn't really seem recovered there, though. Do you see?
We
Hold
are
on.
following this breaking news
Oh.
here in New York.
Go back. I want to see that again. So interesting. You don't notice. So here's the stuff I'm looking for. You don't I didn't notice him blinking at all. We'll watch that again. I was looking to see if he had any like repetitive movement um, with his tongue or his mouth, if he had any weakness on either side of his face, if either of his eyes started tearing, just to kind of give you an idea of the things that I look at when I'm watching somebody who's not behaving as they should.
We're on a path to finishing the NDA.
You can see his hands are gripping.
This week, it's been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of.
Let's watch and see if one of those hands drops. They're going to speed up. Wow.
Are you good?
He doesn't.
Okay, Mitch.
He didn't even respond when the lady in the pink grabbed
You wanna
him.
say anything else to the press?
He's blinking now. He still can't speak. Boy, that does look like what that looks like to me is a TIA,
Go ahead, John.
which is called a transischemic attack. So that's what happens is it's kind of like a mini
Could you address
stroke.
what happened at the start of the press conference?
What you have is you have this little transient. Sometimes it's a little clot, or it can even be compression in a vessel in the brain, and it can close down, or you can have just a tiny clot that blocks for a minute, and you lose oxygen to that part of the brain just for a short time, and then it clears. And so maybe something like that. Also, I don't know if he's diabetic. Maybe his blood sugar dropped. I've had blood sugar drop before where I'm confused like that, can't respond. But gosh, I hope he's okay. That's definitely not normal, but I didn't see what I would expect with stroke. Like he was still able to stand. His mouth didn't droop. His eye didn't droop. His eyes didn't water. He didn't act like he was in any kind of pain. So like no chest pain that I could see. I couldn't tell if he dropped his arms, but I didn't see his shoulders move. They pulled the shot up so close I couldn't see what he was doing with his hands, but he was holding on to the sides of the podium. So I was looking to see, does he lose grip on one side? And I couldn't see that. So I watched his shoulders to see if one of his shoulders fell, and I didn't see that. But he doesn't even really seem to be aware that anyone's talking to him until that gentleman on our left grabs him and gets very close to him and starts, do you have anything else to say? Maybe we should go to your office. But yeah, that would definitely be something he should go to the ER for and be evaluated at his age and with him having a recent fall. I'm not a fan of his, but I don't want anything bad to happen to him either. Doris, I feel famous. Are you Nurse Penny from Salty Cracker? I do that, I participate in a lot of different chats on a lot of different shows. And so I usually type in Nurse Penny here so people know that it's me. He did go to outer space there. Something's definitely not right. Hunter's Cobb kicked him. I think that would have made him more animated. Yeah, transischemic attack is what it looks like to me. He's not the picture of health. How old is that guy now? It's time, buddy. Go ahead and retire. Enjoy your retirement. Leave us alone for a while. Mitch McConnell. Let's see how old this guy is. He's 81. It's just, but he's not looked good since the fall. Have you guys seen him since the fall? I saw him a couple of weeks ago. Because I remember asking, where is he gone? Did he already retire? And then he surfaced and he never looked great, to be honest. He always kind of looks like he's lost. But yeah, 81. He's just not looked like he's very with it since he hit his head. He looks better than Dianne Feinstein, but good Lord, that poor woman. There should be some, I don't understand how these people can stay once they're so clearly past the point of incompetency. You got Joe's 80, Nancy's 83, Dianne, I would say of Dianne and Joe, Nancy's probably higher functioning, but not by a whole lot. Dianne is just totally, she's advanced in her dementia. She didn't realize she had been out of work for months, what was like 6-7 weeks with shingles. they were like, well, you've been out of work. She's like, no, I haven't. I've been here every day. I'm like, oh yeah, that's advanced. Joe, God love him. He can't. He's just a hot mess. TIA is trans ischemic attack. It's where you transiently lose oxygen to part of the brain. So transient means comes and goes. Ischemic means a loss of oxygen and then attack. It's kind of like a tiny baby stroke. And TIAs are warnings generally of strokes to come. You don't always have a TIA before you have a stroke, but we do see that where people have a couple TIAs and then they'll have a stroke. And sometimes we can even pick it up on CT scan. We'll do a scan of the brain and you can see that there's a small little area that got damaged from lack of oxygen. But I mean, it seemed like a long time watching it. It really wasn't that long, but scary. But like I said, he also, I don't know what other health problems he has. Chronic, let's see if they tell us health issues. Because like I said, I've done that with my sugar suddenly dropping. I'll be like 120 and just out of nowhere it'll drop to 40. And I was on a live stream once when that happened, scared everybody to death. That's 2020. Well, in 2020, he was saying his health is just fine. Uh, 2020, they were saying that he had black and blue hands. 2023, he recovered from a concussion and rib fractures after a fall. Yeah, it's not really uncommon to see bluish discolored hands in older people. The skin gets thin. You can see the underlying vessels and stuff, and it'll look like bruising, but a lot of times it's just underlying vessels. I've seen healthier people in nursing homes, as have I. Michael says, Diane makes Maxine Waters look like a genius. Maxine Waters is probably one of my least favorite, and that's saying a lot. Diane looks like one of the creatures from the Dark Crystal. You guys are so mean. Physical and mental health requirements. Right. Yeah, I think you should. Doris, thank you. That's a great way to say it. Physical and mental health requirements. Yes, let's have some basic standards, that you know where you are, you know who you are, you know where you've been, a basic mini mental assessment, which I'm trying to think of what are the basic questions. I mean, you'd have to be really far gone to fail one. Mini mental exam. Let's see. Funny that I can't remember that. Okay, the mini mental exam is this. Why? You do it because you want to see if there's cognitive impairment. The MMSE, do they give us yeah, here we go. Okay, so the maximum number that you could get would be 5. Are you guys ready? We're going to see how oriented you are. We're going to check your mental status. You know your name, what planet you're on, the basics, right. So orientation, what is the year, the season, the date, the day, and the month? I might occasionally get day and date wrong, but when I was working, I didn't. Where are we? State, country, town, hospital, floor. Registration. This is 3 points. Name 3 objects, 1 second to say each. Then ask the patient all 3 after you have said them. So I would say pencil, cup, monitor. And then I would ask you to repeat that back and you would say pencil, cup, monitor. I give 1 point for each correct answer. And then how many tries it takes you to get it right. Attention and calculation, serial 7s. 1 point for each correct answer. Stop after 5 answers. Alternately spell world backward. That one's a little hard. Spell world backward, world. And I've seen it, which I just don't think should count. DLROW. Oh. Yeah, I don't think that's fair though, because I saw it. You get 1 point for each time you can do it correctly. Once you've answered 5 times, you stop. I don't understand the scoring for that. Hold on. Recall. Ask for the 3 objects repeated above. Okay, so then the 3 objects I mentioned earlier, can you tell me what those are? You get 1 point for each one. So then you point to two things. You point to a pencil, you point to a watch. Can you tell me what this is? Can you tell me what this is? Repeat the following: no ifs, ands, or buts. And people who have trouble with language, like they have receptive aphasia, which means they don't understand what you're saying to them, or they can have expressive aphasia, which means they can't express what they need to say to you, or you can have a mix of both. And that no ifs, ands, or buts will help with determining if there's an issue there. Then they have to follow a 3-stage command. Take a paper in your hand, fold it in half, and put it on the floor. Read and obey the following. So I would say close your eyes and see if a patient does it. Write any sentence and then copy this design, which is just a basic, simplest design. And then you give them points for being alert, drowsy, stupor, or coma. I'm like, who's doing a mini mental exam on somebody who's in stupor or in a coma? But that's the exam. So that's a very basic, but I tell you what, I think McConnell couldn't pass it. I know Feinstein couldn't pass it. I think Nancy might be able to do it. Joe Biden, no. I think he would need multiple instructions on a 3-stage command. Take a paper in your hand, fold it in half, put it on the floor. I think he would need that said multiple times. I don't think he could copy the design shown. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think we do that. We do a mini mental exam. And then did you guys ever work at a job where you have to take, Cheryl Ann. Cheryl says, add in competency testing for knowledge of the Constitution. You know who would fail that? The representative from the Virgin Islands who's a non-voting member, that person has no idea what her job is or what's going on. She amazes me with her ignorance every time she opens her mouth. Every time. Her and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And what's bad is Debbie Wasserman Schultz is incompetent, but her mental status is fine. So there's the problem. What do you do when you have somebody who's intellectually incompetent, like Fetterman? And I'm not being rude. He is incompetent for the job that he has. He's unable to speak clearly and understandably. He's unable to understand. He's just got a lot of health problems, and I just feel like he could not pass the mini mental exam. That's for sure. Come on, man, you know the thing. You guys are so funny. Yeah, Biden definitely couldn't pass it. I'm sure Trump would do fine. All of the people that are running for office would do fine. Even on the Democrat side, who do we have on the Democrat side now? We've got JFK or RFK Jr. Is he the only one who's put his hat in? Who else is running on the Dem side, guys? Do you remember? I know that Newsom's not in yet. They're talking about it. They've been talking about Manchin getting in, but that's not happened. Her expertise is satanic voodoos. Yeah, the ramen noodle hair lady, Michael. Doris says, I don't need any more proof of Joe's dementia. We've all seen it. Yeah, there's plenty of evidence. No, I'm just saying before you can run for office, I think you ought to have to pass these. And then if you win, you ought to have to pass them again. Because I think Joe probably could have passed it when he was running or come real close. But by the time he got into office, he was already so far gone. He's progressed really. He's either progressing really rapidly, which I honestly believe he is, or he's faking it so that he doesn't get in trouble on all of this other stuff that's going on. And I just don't think he could possibly be that good of an actor. RFK and the potato. Yeah, I thought that was it. They keep doing have you guys seen they have this polling thing that they do where they show everybody who's in, right? And they add people that aren't in. It's the weirdest thing. So for Joe Biden, they've got Gavin Newsom in there. They've got RFK Jr. They've got Gretchen Whitmer, Marianne Williamson. Thank you. Anyway, they have people who aren't in that they're scoring for, what's the likelihood that they would win or what percentage of people would vote for them or something. It doesn't make any sense. I'm like, those people aren't even in. I don't understand how you're including them in the numbers, but, do the numbers really mean anything? I don't think so. All right, guys, I'm going to end it for there. It's 3:00. We have been on here since 10:30 this morning, so I am worn out. We did our book club this morning. If you guys haven't seen book club, you can go back. We just finished today. We finished The Giver. Excellent book. So many parallels for society today. I think that's 4 episodes. And the book before that, if you really want to get into a book, the book before that we read was The Velveteen Rabbit. One more back, keep scrolling through the videos, is Jonathan Cahn's The Return of the Gods. And it talks about the gods of old, the little g gods. And just all of the horrible stuff that went with those. And it talks about, have those gods come back, and are they using these times to gain power? It's a fascinating book. Everybody really loved it. So if you like listening to books, I read them, so you don't have to read them. And then we talk about them after. The Giver was so good, wasn't it? My heart was just so happy at the end. I won't say anything more because there's people who haven't read it, but it was so good. Dems will pull the old switcheroo when the time comes for Joe to go. Yeah, I've been trying to figure out what the game is. Like, do any of you think, thank you, Doris. Do any of you think that the Democrats are just going to sit quietly and let the Republicans push through impeachment, and that way they get him out and they can blame it on the Republicans? My other question is, do you think the Republicans maybe aren't pushing for impeachment because, 1, they don't want Kamala Harris, and 2, because they want to force the Democrats to take their own guy out? Have you guys thought of either of those angles? Biden will call World War III so the elections. Oh gosh, I hope not. I hope not. Joe's rubber mask will live forever. You guys are so cute. Enlighten, I can't wait to go back to book club today. Oh, bye guys. Enlighten, yes, it's a good one today. And it's quick. It's those last 5-6 chapters went fast. But yeah, that's my thinking is Kevin McCarthy dragging his feet because he's an idiot and because I don't like him? Or is he dragging his feet? He's not an idiot. I just don't like him. Is he dragging his feet because he doesn't want Harris and because he wants the Dems to do their own dirty work? That's kind of a smart move. And I don't hear anybody floating that idea out there. Everybody's like, this is ridiculous. They've got enough. They should impeach him. And I'm like, do you really want Kamala for a year? Do you think that's not going to be worse? I mean, of course, it would probably take that long to get him impeached. And do you, why not force the Democrats to do it themselves? I mean, how much longer can they drag him up the short steps before they have to do something? But my thinking is, if they let the Democrats do it, right? Say the Democrats Kennedy him, which I don't think is beyond what they might do. And this isn't Democrats in your community. These are the government weirdos. Or say he just has, who's the Supreme Court justice that supposedly just died in his sleep with a pillow over his face? Was it Scalia? I can't remember. Anyway, if something nonviolent happens, they're going to be like, oh, he was such a wonderful president. We're going to have to listen to all that BS, right? I think it's almost in their best interest to have something violent happen that they can blame on the right, just to stoke all kinds of animosity. It's like watching a chess game. I'm like, okay, who's making the next move? What are they going to do? What's the real reason behind it? It is a fascinating time to be alive. I hate it, but it's fascinating. Never interfere with your enemy when they are destroying themselves. Yes, that is exactly the theory. Why push for impeachment? Why just let all this stuff roll out and play out? Then you don't have to get into that whole ickiness of impeachment. And then you're not responsible for getting Kamala into office, because she's going to be a flipping nightmare. I mean, talk about somebody who can't figure out what she's talking about, what she's doing, and she's got no excuse, I think, for self-destruction. I do too. Look at that, you guys. We have come up with a brilliant theory. Verskill says PDS asked Anthony Weiner about Clinton's body. What? Oh, I did see that. That was because the PDS guy, I can't think of his name, is yelling at Anthony Weiner. Anthony Weiner's like getting all worked up and yelling at him. And it's like this, it was so tense. I had to like pause it. I'm like, oh, so much conflict. It's stressing me out. But that was hysterical. I can't remember where I saw it the other day. It wasn't on that guy's specific channel. I picked it up some other way. Maybe Timcast or something. I don't know. Doris, see you on Salty tonight. Yep. Weiner was totally freaking out, wasn't he? That was good stuff. Was it? Or maybe I saw something with Podesta. Oh, I can't remember now. It's all running together. I watch way too much news. Isn't that crazy? All right, guys, I'm going to pray us out. I will see you guys. I won't be here next Wednesday. We won't have book club. I won't be here this Friday because we're going to the lake. So I'll be here either next Friday or next Sunday. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep you updated. But usually it's Fridays. We've been moving it. We moved it last week to Sunday because nobody does a show on Sunday, just to see what our numbers would look like. And they were about the same. So, of course, it's not been a week yet. We'll see where it ends up at a week. But we might just move to Sunday because there's nothing to watch on Sundays, because most of the people who live stream during the week don't live stream on Sunday except for Salty, and that's after I do 4:30 to 7:30. All right, guys. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for this wonderful group of friends who comes together to discuss all of the crazy nonsense that's going on in the world. I pray that you would bless and keep everyone safe, that you would meet every need. And Father, you know what those needs are, spoken and unspoken. We just thank you for your love and for your son. And we thank you for giving us each other to help us get through this craziness. I don't know how lonely people do it. It's got to be really difficult. And I pray you'd bring comfort to them. Father, most of all, we thank you for your son, Jesus. It's in his name we pray. Amen. All right, guys. Love you whole big bunches. Oh my gosh, your power just went up. See, Doris, what was your last comment? You agreed with zero sugar and now no electricity for you. I hope it's not hot. Poor Doris. I hope it works out, sweetheart. All right, guys. I love you whole big bunches. I will see you when I see you. I'll put up an update midweek next week so you know what's going on with schedule. You're welcome, Zero Sugar. God bless you all, and thank you, Penny. You're welcome, love. Toodles, guys.